ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So before I begin, how many of you are enjoying reading Bhagavad Gita? Are you enjoying reading Bhagavad Gita? How many of you could you read the third chapter, at least the selected verses of the third chapter? Okay, Omkar says yes. Shri also says yes, she could read. Okay, very wonderful. Thank you so much. And many others also, Deepali and Surya, Indriyani, so many. Wonderful. And I hope others also must have read some selected verses of third chapter. So before I begin, I had shared one of the PPTs made by our student. Right? I hope you saw that and you liked it. I'll just share it on the screen if some of you have not seen. One of our students, he has made this beautiful PPT with the selected shlokas of Bhagavad Gita, third chapter. 4 chapters also ready. He has already made it. So I'll be sharing it with you tomorrow. So like this, the shlokas are there with a word-to-word meaning, translation, and some relevant photo to help us understand the concept clearly. So yajnarthat karmanonyatra lokoyam karma bandhanah tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. So you can keep this slide and you can keep reciting these shlokas. Right? I'll recite all the shlokas of third chapter. यज्ञशिष्टासिनः सन्तो मुच्यन्ते सर्वकिल्बिषैः भुञ्जते ते त्वघं पाप ये पचन्त्यात्मकारणात्. So this tells about eating prasadam. In the mentor meetings also some of you must have discussed this shloka. And then the cycle of rain. Annad bhavanti bhutani parjanyadanna sambhavah yajnad bhavati parjanyo yajna karma samudbhavah. So by performance of yajna you get rains, and the rains will help you to lead a happy life. Right? So here the cycle is also given in the photograph. And this is a shloka for a leader, leading by example. Yadyacharati shreshthasте tattadevetaro janaah sayat pramanam kurute lokastadanu vartate. So a leader leads by example. So a devotee should lead by example, by setting a good example. So as by following Bhagavad Gita. That's what this shloka says. And this verse tells about surrender to me and fight. मयि सर्वाणि कर्माणि सन्न्यस्याध्यात्म चेतसा निराशीर निर्ममो भूत्वा युध्यस्व विगतज्वर. Krishna is telling here, fight by surrendering to me, right? By offering your work to me without any ahankara or mamkara, to fight. And then this shloka told about how the number one enemy, lust, and we have to conquer it. You will see in this photograph, this person is lusty for this woman, and is getting attracted and is getting dragged to hellish planets because of lust, anger, and greed. Kamesha krodesha rajoguna samudbhavah mahashano mahapapma vidhyanam hya vairinam. So by seeing these photographs and using these cards, it will be helpful to recite some important shlokas of Bhagavad Gita. Okay. Hare Krishna. Anybody would like to try reciting any one shloka from the third chapter?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, again Rishi, can you recite any one shloka?
यज्ञार्थात् कर्मणो यात्रा लोकोऽयं कर्मबन्धना तदर्थं कर्म कौन्तेय मुक्तसङ्गसमाचरा.
Thank you, Rishi. You're always the first one to recite the shloka. Thank you. Very good example you're setting. Although being young, still you are so enthusiastic. Wonderful. Yeah. Anybody else would like to recite any shloka? You can raise your hand and speak. You can unmute and speak. Anyone else? Okay. Okay, I think people are shy. You don't have to be shy. You can boldly recite. Even if there are small mistakes, that's okay. Krishna will accept your devotion. Actually, it is said that Lord is Bhavagrahi Janardhana. Murkho vaditi Vishnave, Dhiro vadati Vishnaya, right? Dhiro vadati Vishnaya, Murkho vadati, sorry, Dhiro vadati Vishnave, Murkho vadati Vishnaya. Ubhayastu samam punyam bhavagrahi janardhana. An intelligent person says, Om Vishnave Namaha, which is correct pronunciation. But a not so learned person may say Om Vishnaya Namaha, like that. But that's wrong. But still, both will get the same punya because bhavagrahi janardhana. Krishna is accepting the devotion with which you read Bhagavad Gita. You remember that story of Brahmana in South India who was trying to read Bhagavad Gita, although he did not know Sanskrit properly. But still, the Lord accepted his devotion. That's because he was chanting with devotion. Okay, Harsha, Dr. Harsha Mataji wants to try. Yes, Mataji, you can unmute and speak.
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
यज्ञशिष्टसिनः सन्तो मुच्यन्ते अमुच्यन्ते सर्वकिल्बिषे पुञ्जते त्वगं पापा ये पचन्त्यात्मकरणात्.
Very nice. Very well. Wonderful. Thank you. It was very good. Without any mistakes, of course. So very nice. So thank you. Anybody else would like to try? This verse which Harsha Mataji chanted just now tells that we should eat food offered to Krishna. Yajna Shishtaha. Yajna Shishta means that which is offered to the Lord and then given by the Lord. So that's called prasad. So when you offer any item to the Lord with love, Lord accepts the item. He doesn't take the item, but he takes the love with which you offer and then returns back the item with mercy. That's called prasad. And by eating that prasad, we become purified. And if we eat anything else which is cooked for our own enjoyment, we get only sin. We eat sin. Okay. So there's one more devotee wanting to try DB2CB4FC. You can please rename yourself so that we can know who you are.
His name is Rahul, Prabhuji.
Rahul. Okay. Okay. Yes, Rahul.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhuji.
Which one you want to recite?
Kama yesha krodha yesha. Kama yesha krodha yesha rajo guna samudbhavaha. Mahashano mahapapma vidyanam mehvairinam.
Wonderful. Thank you, Rahul, for reciting this shloka. So our target of this Gita course is at least by the end of this course, the 21 sessions, at least you should know 18 shlokas and its meaning. So that is the target. Of course, it's achievable. So everybody please try and recite. And after every module, we are going to have some revision sessions. There also we can try to, we'll be having certain quizzes and exciting activities in that session where you will get to learn more. Okay, thank you. So coming back to today's session. So today we are discussing this topic, chapter 4 of Bhagavad Gita, which is called transcendental knowledge. Jnana Karma Vibhagya Yoga. There is Jnana also, and there is knowledge of karma also. How to do karma with knowledge? That is given in this chapter, transcendental knowledge. Prabhupada calls it as transcendental knowledge. And in this chapter, the main highlights is some of your questions, like what is the difference between Lord's birth and our birth? What are the reasons for Lord's avatar? What are the three types of karmas? How does sacrifice lead to jnana? And how to attain knowledge from a bona fide guru? So these main questions will be answered in this chapter. And I've given this photograph here because you see Krishna in the center and all the avatars, the Dashavataras around. Because Krishna is telling about his avatars in this chapter. So some of the two famous shlokas will come in this chapter. So the breakdown of this chapter is as follows. The first 10 shlokas, section 1, tells about transcendental knowledge about Krishna. So knowledge about Krishna should be received by disciplic succession. This reveals the truth about Krishna's form, birth, and his activities. Knowing these truths, one who takes shelter of Krishna becomes purified and attains Krishna. Okay, so one should know about Krishna from Parampara, and by knowing that, one will attain Krishna. So that's first section. Second section deals with how to apply this transcendental knowledge by doing certain activities. So that's given here. I'll discuss more about this during the discussion. Krishna is neutral in and sanctions the awarding of fruits of everyone's work. He awards the fruits according to the living entity's desire and past deeds. And understanding Krishna in this way keeps one free from material bondage. So these 3 points are discussed in this section. And the third section is understanding karma on the platform of jnana. So one can perform detached actions in Krishna's service by applying transcendental knowledge. They are called as akarma. Akarma means doing activities without any desire for fruitive gain for the pleasure of Krishna. That's called akarma. And section 4 discusses about sacrifices lead to transcendental knowledge. Okay. So different kinds of sacrifices are mentioned in this chapter, in that section. And at last, the conclusion of how to surrender to a guru, right? Acting on transcendental knowledge received by disciplic succession destroys the sinful reactions to all work. So that's the concluding section of this chapter. And the shortcut to remember this chapter is EARS. EARS. The eternal education. Accurate understanding of Krishna's activities. And yeah. So do all paths lead to the same goal? Why there are many? Why is there worship of many gods? And what is the caste system? Chaturvarnim. Some of you are asking questions about what is the caste system. So that will come today. And removing reactions by performance of a karma and sacrifice leads to knowledge. So the shortcut to remember the chapter. For every chapter, we'll use shortcuts or acronyms by which you can remember the entire chapter. Okay. Hare Krishna. So in the third chapter, Krishna told that you should conquer this enemy of lust. So how to conquer this enemy of lust? By awakening transcendental knowledge about Krishna. So that's the connection. So that's how the fourth chapter begins. So the fourth chapter begins with this shloka of how to get transcendental knowledge. So the third chapter ended with this. Evam buddhehe param buddha samsthabhyatmanam atmana jahi satrum mahabaho kamarupam durasadam. So Arjuna is told by Krishna, thus knowing oneself to be transcendental to material senses, mind and intelligence, O mighty armed Arjuna, one should study the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence, and thus by spiritual strength conquer the insatiable enemy known as lust. So he is telling you should have spiritual intelligence, jnana. So what is that jnana? Krishna explains in fourth chapter. So the fourth chapter begins with this shloka. It's a very important shloka. So kindly repeat. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Somebody is there who can recite after me? Yeah. So anyone
Can I
can.
recite, Prabhuji?
Yeah. Imam vivasvate yogam.
Imam vivasvate yogam
Proktavanaham avyayam.
Yuktavaanaham avyayam
Vivasvan manave praha.
Vivasvan manave praha
Mano rikshvakave bravit.
Manur ikshvakave bravit.
So the Lord is telling that this knowledge, Imam Yogam, Vivasvate Proktavan. I have told this knowledge to Vivasvan long back. This indestructible knowledge, this knowledge is indestructible. It's called Avyaya. So Yogam Avyayam, indestructible knowledge. I spoke this to long back to Vivasvan. Who is Vivasvan? Vivasvan is actually the sun god, the presiding deity or the king of the sun. He is called Vivasvan. So, and Vivasvan told this knowledge to his son Manu, Vaivasvata Manu. His name is Vaivasvata. Vivasvan, Vaivasvata. Pandu, Pandaveya. Right? Kunti, Kaunteya. Similarly, Vivasvan, Vaivasvata Manu. And Manu told it to his son, Ikshvaku. So in Ikshvaku Vamsha, there are many kings like Raghu, and then Lord Ramachandra, and many others. They come in that. So in this way, the knowledge had previously existed, and I had told this, and it had come in the parampara. That's what Krishna is telling here. So here, Prabhupada gives the history of Bhagavad Gita. You see here. Yeah. Human life is meant for cultivation of spiritual knowledge in eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the executive heads of all the states and planets are obliged to impart this lesson to the citizens by education, culture, and devotion. In other words, the executive heads of all states are intended to spread the science of Krishna consciousness so that people may take advantage of this great science and pursue a successful path utilizing the opportunity of human form of life. See here, who is the recipient of this knowledge? The kings. Vyasvan is a king. Then Vaivasvata Manu is a king. Then Ikshvaku is a king. And in this way, the many kings received this knowledge. So it's meant for all the elite people. In fact, all the administrators of the country should read this Bhagavad Gita and should administer the country based on the knowledge given in Bhagavad Gita. So that is the actual way in which the administration has to be done, right? Not just we write some rules and then we follow that rules. No, we should follow the God's rules, and those God's rules are given in the scriptures, Vedic scriptures like Bhagavad Gita. Okay. So Prabhupada says further in this same purport. Sun is the king of the planets, and sun god at present of the name Vivasvan rules the sun planet, which is controlling all other planets by supplying heat and light. He is rotating under the order of Krishna, and Lord Krishna originally made Vivasvan his first disciple to understand the science of Bhagavad Gita. The Gita is not therefore a speculative treatise for the insignificant mundane scholar, but is a standard book of knowledge coming down from time immemorial. So that is Bhagavad Gita. So one scientist came and understood, came and told Prabhupada that how can you tell that Bhagavad Gita is perfect? Bhagavad Gita is not scientific. First you should explain scientifically the Bhagavad Gita, then we'll accept it. So then Prabhupada said, actually Bhagavad Gita is scientific, but your science is not scientific. Because your scientific books keep changing, right? So you produce one book or one theory and write it in a book, and tomorrow somebody else will come and smash that theory and propose another theory, like atomic theory. First Dalton said atom is the smallest unit, it cannot be divided. So then Thomson came and said, no, there are positive and negative charges diffused in the atom. And then Rutherford came and said, positive charge is concentrated, negative charge is spread all over. And then somebody came and said, no, negative charge is spread all around, but it's in orbitals. So that's Bohr's theory of orbital theory of the atom. And then somebody else came and said that no, there are quarks inside the atom. In the nucleus also there are subatomic particles, not just protons and neutrons, but quarks and other mesons and some other things. And tomorrow somebody will come and say there is one more particle in that. So like this, the science keeps on changing actually. One theory nullifies the old theory. So Prabhupada questioned him. So is it scientific? How can science change? Science means you should know what is reality, but you don't know reality. So you keep changing the theories. But Bhagavad Gita, since 5,000 years, it has not changed. Every word of it is truth. There is no need to change. Only thing is we have to find out how it is true. So that's why Bhagavad Gita is the most scientific. That's how Prabhupada proved it. So here Prabhupada is telling, no? It's a standard book of knowledge coming down from time immemorial. So of course, Prabhupada quotes the history of how many years back it was spoken in Mahabharata Shanti Parva. You can read this on your own. This section here, Prabhupada says, yeah. So Kali Yuga is 4,32,000 years. Okay, one Kali Yuga is 4,32,000 years. Right now we are in the 5,000th year, around 5,000th year of the Kali Yuga. And still 4,27,000 years are yet to come. So the Dwapar Yuga is double of this, like 8,64,000. So that is Dwapar Yuga. Treta Yuga is triple of this, like 12 lakhs and 94,000. Prabhupada is giving approximate figures here, but exactly it is 2 times and 3 times of Kali Yuga. And Satya Yuga is 4 times, about 17 lakh years. So in this way, Treta Yuga is, so at the beginning of Treta Yuga, this was spoken to Ikshvaku. Okay. So because Ikshvaku Maharaj comes in the before Ramachandra, so Ramachandra, Lord Ramachandra came in Treta Yuga. So Prabhupada says that, so some 2,005,000 years ago, Manu spoke Bhagavad Gita to his disciple Ikshvaku, the king of this earth planet. So the age of current Manu is calculated as some 305,300,000 years, of which 120,400,000 years have passed. Accepting that before the birth of Manu, the Gita was spoken by the Lord to his disciple, the sun god Vivasvan. A rough estimate is that the Gita was spoken 120,400,000 years ago. Okay. And in the human society, it has been extant for 2 million years. So this is a brief history of how Bhagavad Gita is spoken. So more about this I will be discussing in the 8th chapter of Gita, where Krishna is telling about Pralaya and Srishti. So how the creation happens, how the destruction happens, how the Yuga cycles change, how the years change. So all that is discussed more in the 8th chapter. So I will be spending more time about this of this topic in the 8th chapter. Okay. So then Krishna goes on to say, Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduhu sakale neha mahata yogo nashtha parantava. Krishna is telling this knowledge was coming down in the parampara system. Parampara praptam. Raja Rashayo viduhu. Raja Rishi. This is a very important word. Raja Rishi. Raja means king. Rishi means a sage. So previously, kings also had saintly qualities. Not just anybody with votes becomes a king. No, he should also have saintly qualities. Then he's called as a Raja Rishi. Parikshit was a Raja Rishi. Arjuna was a Raja Rishi. Yudhishthir was a Raja Rishi, because they had kingly side, means administration powers, as well as they had the wisdom. That's why they're called as rishis. But Sakaleneha Mahata Yogo Nashta Parantapa. So Mahata Kalena, because of the mighty time, this yoga appears to be lost. That's why I'm telling this knowledge to you again, O Arjuna. So that's the third shloka. So one interesting point Prabhupada writes here. Yeah. So in the same way, at the present moment also there are so many editions of the Gita, especially in English. But almost all of them are not according to authorized disciplic succession. Right? About 600 editions of Gita are there in the market. People are writing on their own, concocting something. Some say Kurukshetra is like the body, and five Pandavas are like the five senses. So like this, they're interpreting and they're writing on their own without any connection to Krishna or devotional service. They're just concocting. So such kind of additions will not transform any person. So there are innumerable interpretations rendered by different mundane scholars. But almost all of them do not accept the Supreme Personality of God Krishna, although they make a good business on the words of Sri Krishna. So they make a good business on the word of Sri Krishna. Means what? See, Bhagavad Gita is famous because it's spoken by Krishna. And if somebody takes a famous book and writes something on it, and then it sells because it's famous. So it sells and they'll make good profit. So taking the name of Krishna, taking the name of Bhagavad Gita, they are putting their own ideas in that book and they're selling in the name of Bhagavad Gita. So that is nonsense. So Prabhupada is condemning that kind of thing. This spirit is demoniac. Because demons do not believe in God but simply enjoy the property of the Supreme. They don't believe in Krishna, but they still write commentary on Gita. Since there is a great need of an edition of the Gita in English, as it is received by the Parampara system, an attempt is made herewith to fulfill the great want. The Bhagavad Gita, accepted as it is a great boon to humanity. It's a great boon to humanity. But if it is accepted as a treatise of philosophical speculations, it is simply a waste of time. So this is the verdict of Prabhupada. So Prabhupada, I was hearing one lecture of Srila Prabhupada is telling in that lecture that people are astonished why my Bhagavad Gita is selling so much. So Prabhupada had published his first edition from Macmillan Company. Macmillan, they had published his Bhagavad Gita initially. So that was like an abridged edition, like condensed edition. But still it was selling a lot, Bhagavad Gita as it is. So the publishers wrote to Prabhupada, Swamiji, what is there in your book that so many people are purchasing your book? Then Swamiji replied, actually I have not done anything great. I have just represented Gita as it is. Right? I have written Bhagavad Gita as it is. Bhagavad Gita as it is. So when you read Bhagavad Gita as it is, people get transformation. They feel the change. So that's why they're purchasing, they're buying. So that is the speciality of Bhagavad Gita as it is. So by reading this book, so many people all over the world have actually understood Bhagavad Gita. But many other editions have not been able to convince people of the supremacy of Krishna nor the science of soul. Not at all. So that's why Bhagavad Gita has to be read as it is. So then in the next sloka, Krishna says, there are some questions coming here. I will take it at the end of the session. Okay. Then Krishna says, Saevayam mayatedya yoga prokta puratanah bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasyam hyetaduttamam. Krishna is telling Saha Eva, that same knowledge, Mayate Adya Prokta. I am speaking it to you now. I have spoken it to you, he says. In the second chapter and third chapter, Krishna already spoke this knowledge. Telling that same knowledge has spoken to you. And this is Puratana knowledge actually, a very, very ancient knowledge. This has been existing since the time of creation. Then he says, why am I speaking to you? Because you are my bhakta. Bhakto asi. Me sakha cheti. You are also my sakha friend. And you are not, like in the previous sloka he said, previous chapter he said, anasuyave, non-envious. Because you are my devotee, You are my friend and you're non-envious. That's why I am telling this knowledge to you. And what is this knowledge? Rahasyam, it's confidential. Uttamam, it's the topmost knowledge. Right? And then later chapters, Krishna says, Adhyatma Vidya Vidyanam. He says, among the knowledge, I am the Adhyatma, the spiritual knowledge. So that's why it's called Uttamam. Tamam is ignorance. Uttama means beyond ignorance, means spiritual knowledge. So that is Uttama knowledge and confidential knowledge I am speaking to you. Why is it confidential? Because it involves the knowledge of what happens in the spiritual world. What is the relationship of the Jiva with God? That is confidential. So that's why it's called Rahasya, confidential knowledge. So similarly, how can we understand Gita? We can understand Gita only when we also become a devotee of Krishna, and we also Bhaktosi mein Sakacheti, we develop some feelings of affection for Krishna and friendship. So then we also can understand. So without being devotee of Krishna, we cannot understand Krishna, we cannot understand Bhagavad Gita, right? So that's a very important qualification. So that's why our request to all of you is try to chant Hare Krishna. Fixed number of rounds, 1 round, 2 round, 4 round. Many of you are already chanting, right? So continue that because that is a devotion. So when you chant Hare Krishna, you'll be able to understand these concepts also very nicely. Otherwise, these things will remain only theoretical. So we don't want theoretical knowledge. We want practical realization of the words of Gita. So that realization will come only when we chant, when we do meditation, or chanting the names of Krishna. And Krishna will reveal, right? So Divya Gyan, Hridaya Prakashito. When you chant Hare Krishna, when you have heard the knowledge and then you chant Hare Krishna, then it becomes realized. So that realized knowledge we want. Jnanam, Vijnanam. So Vijnanam is realized knowledge. Jnanam is theoretical knowledge. So for Jnana to turn into Vijnana, we should chant Hare Krishna. Okay. So after speaking this, Arjuna raises a question. What is the question? Arjuna says, Krishna, Arjuna Uvacha, Aparam Bhavato Janma, Param Janma Vivasvatah, Khatam Etad Vijaniyam, Tvamado Proktavaniti. Telling Aparam Bhavato, Bhavato Janma Aparam. We are just born recently. I am your cousin. We both were born together. And Vivasvatah Param Janma. He was born before, long back, millions of years back. How did you speak to him? Interesting question, right? Khatam etad vija. How do I understand this? Tamado proktavaniti. Like if two of your friends are there, then you are speaking to each other, and then you say, one of the friends says, I spoke this to long back to Mahatma Gandhi. Then you say, Mahatma Gandhi ke time pe tum kahan the? We were born together, and you are telling you spoke this to Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi was like 100 years back. How could you speak to him? The question will rise. Same thing Arjuna is asking. Arey, tum dono bhai hai. You are both are brothers. How can you speak long back? So this is the quality of a student. Immediately asks a question, and there's a sign of intelligence. Asking questions is a sign of intelligence or deliberation, because intelligent people get intelligent questions, and questions also should not be absurd questions. It should be relevant questions, relevant to spirituality. Like one of the people, sometimes they ask question that in Dwarka, 16,000 palaces were there and millions of people are staying. What are the drainage system there? Of course, he may be curious to know the civil engineering of that city, but it's a spiritual city. So our material logic may fail to understand how it is working there, because people are spiritual. So, but our inquiry should be, what did they do? How were they serving Krishna? What were the daily activities of Krishna in Dwarka? And how were all the devotees serving Krishna? So they must have been so fortunate. That is a relevant inquiry, rather than asking how is the pipeline system in Dwarka, isn't it? So absurd queries should be avoided, but relevant queries should be asked, like Arjuna is asking here to Krishna. How am I to understand? So Now Acharyas explain here that Arjuna knew who is Krishna. He knew that he is Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he didn't have to ask this question actually. He is asking this question for all of us. Acharyas explain Arjuna knew everything about Krishna, but others may have question. Hare Krishna is boasting that he spoke to Sun God long, long ago. How is it possible? So he is guessing others' question and is asking question to Krishna, so that from Krishna's mouth only the answer can come and it can satisfy everybody, like all of us. You know, some of us also may have this question: "Kaise bola Krishna ne?" So Krishna himself will answer this. So Arjuna is taking the role of all of us and is asking this question. Like remember last time I was telling that if you want to make Bhagavad Gita relevant to your life, you should replace yourself in Arjuna's position. And as if Krishna is speaking to you, and as if you are asking question to Krishna. In that way, personally you read Gita, then it will make sense. So here the question was asked by Arjuna for all of us. So therefore, when Krishna speaks about himself, it is auspicious for all the words. Right? Instead of Arjuna speaking, Arjuna wants Krishna only to speak. And the devotees will worship such authoritative statements of Krishna because they're always eager to know more and more about Krishna. So what is the answer? Let us see the answer. So are you eager to see what is the answer Krishna is giving here? Krishna gives very beautiful answer to this question. I'll share the shloka. Yeah. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tavacha Arjuna Tanyaham Veda Sarvani Natvam Vetha Parantapa. Krishna said, Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tavacha Arjuna. Right? Me and you, Arjuna, we have taken many janmas. Bahuni janmani vyatitani. Many, many lifetimes. Tani aham Veda Sarvani. And what all happened in all those lives, I remember, I know. Veda means to know. Tani aham Veda. Natvam Vetta Parantapa. But you don't know, Arjuna. So he's telling this. Even if you were present at that time with me, right? Arjuna, Krishna says also, at that time also you were there with me when I was speaking, but you don't remember it. Why? Because you change bodies. That will come in the next shloka. Right? Because Arjuna changes bodies, he forgets. We also change body. In childhood, we had one kind of body. When we grew up, now we have different body. Because body has changed, we almost forgot our childhood. Right? How many of you remember what you were doing when you were 4 years old? How many of you remember clearly what you were doing? Any activities you did when you were 4 years old? Anuradha Maharaj says, okay, remember. You remember? Can you remember with great clarity what you did? Okay, Arshab says no. Shivani says not clearly. Correct. Because what we did long, long back, we don't remember. Some may remember. Okay, Tejasan says yes. Maybe 1 or 2 instances we may remember, like playing in mud. Right? Yeah. I remember going on a tricycle. Right? That pedaling cycle, tricycle, I remember. But not too clearly. Right? Some instances here and there, like when you get fresh toys, new toys, you remember, oh, that toy I got. But daily activities we don't remember. In fact, we don't remember what we did yesterday, what we ate for breakfast yesterday. Right? Within a second, how many of you can remember what breakfast you took yesterday? We have to scratch our mind and say, okay, what was the yesterday's morning's menu? I took chapati or I took puri. Or it's difficult because our memory is fading. Now, how to remember that which happened long, long ago? It's difficult. Okay. So that's what Prabhupada says in the purport. So Prabhupada says that we are tiny and God is great. So that's why God can remember, but we forget. But Krishna further explains this in the next shloka. Ajopi san avyayatma bhutanam ishwaropi san Prakritim swam adhisthaya sambhavamyatma. I am Aja, unborn. Aja api. Although I am unborn, I take birth. But even if I take birth, I am Avyayatma. I don't change my body. My body doesn't change like we are changing bodies. And Bhutanam Ishvara. So one may ask the question, even the great yogis, they also don't change bodies. Like some yogis are in Himalayas, even right now, who are 500 years old, 600 years old, they are there because they know how to prolong their life without changing bodies. Then Krishna says, no, I am Ishvara, Bhutanam Ishvara, I am superior to them also. And Prakritim Swam Adhisthaya. And when I come with my original form. And I don't depend on any other. Like here, yogis have to take material bodies, but I don't take a material body. I come with my same own spiritual form. Prakritim Swam Adhisthaya Sambhavami Atma Maya. By my internal potency, I come. I am not under the shelter of external potency, but by my internal potency, I descend to this world. So that's the difference between Lord and us. Like we are born crying, but Lord is born smiling. We are born without any dress, but Lord is born with beautiful garments. And Lord doesn't change bodies, but we change bodies. When we die, our bodies becomes mud, and then we get a new body. Right? Atma gets a new body, but Lord never changes his body. So that's the difference between our birth and Krishna's appearance and disappearance. So then he goes on to explain this concept in the next shloka. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirбhavati bharata abhyuttanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. So this is one of the famous shlokas of Bhagavad Gita. How many of you have heard this shloka before? Okay, so many of you, okay, raising hands and some of you typing on the chat. This is a very famous shloka. This shloka tells, when does Krishna appear? Yada yada hi dharmasya glanihi bhavati. Dharmasya glanihi means whenever religion people are not following. Religion means when people are not serving God. That is religion. Dharma here refers to eternal religion, not Hindu dharma, Christian dharma, Muslim dharma. That is all external religions. But real dharma is serving the Lord. When people forget Lord, that's called dharmasya glani bhavati. Abhyutanam adhamasya, to help them to remember me, atmanam srijamyaham tada. At that time, I appear. Srijami also means I appear. I show myself. Lord is there always, but he shows himself when people forget him. So that is the meaning. Abhyutanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. That he comes in different avatars. Right? Sometimes he comes as Lord Ramachandra. Sometimes he comes as a tortoise, Kurma Avatara. Sometimes as a fish, Matsya Avatara. Different incarnations. There are Avatarai Asankhya. Unlimited avatars are there. And there are 6 categories of avatars. Right? Manvantara Avatara. There is Guna Avatara. There is Purusha Avatara. There is Leela Avatara. There is Shaktavesh Avatara. So like this, the categories are there. And Lord comes in different forms to establish dharma. That's the meaning here. So it is, and you can understand the Krishna's appearance and disappearance by taking the analogy of sun. Like sun rises and then sun sets. Do we say sun is born and sun is dead? No, we say sunrise and sunset. Similarly, Krishna's appearance and Krishna's disappearance. We don't say Krishna born and Krishna died. No. Like last time we were discussing this question. We don't say Krishna's birth, we say Krishna's appearance. And then Krishna's disappearance. Avirbhava, Tirobhava. We don't say birth and death. Krishna never dies. He's like a sun. Sometimes he appears and sometimes he disappears. And when he's disappeared, he is visible somewhere else. Like now the sun is set in India. It's almost 7 o'clock. It's about 6:45. It's sunrise, sunset here. But somewhere sunrise is happening. Isn't it? There they can see the sun. Similarly, when Krishna disappears here, somewhere else he is visible. So he is not dead. So that's what we can understand from this. Then Krishna further says, okay, one may ask a question, why do you have to come, Krishna? To establish dharma, even your devotees can do. Great souls, they can come. Your messengers can come. Acharyas can come, like Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Vishnu Swami. They all can come and establish dharma. Why do you have to come? Then Krishna further says in the next shloka, he says, there are some things which I only can do. That's why I come. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. To protect my devotees, because devotees are very dear to me, I personally come. Paritranaya sadhunam. And because my devotees are in separation from me, like sometimes acharyas come to this world and they're feeling separation from Lord because they have come for Lord's work, but they're not able to see the Lord, so Lord comes to give them pleasure. Paritranaya sadhunam. Then vinashaya cha dushkritam. And there are some demons which cannot be killed by ordinary people. So like Kamsa or Ravana. So I personally come to kill them. And dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Every yuga I come. There are 4 yugas. There is Kali, there is Dwapara, there is Treta Yuga and Satyuga. All 4 yugas Lord comes. And there are Manvantaras. In Manvantar, Manan Avatara comes. And this Gunavataras. So different yugas in different forms Lord appears. So that is the signs of Lord's incarnation. Okay. So then one may ask the question, so what is the benefit of knowing this knowledge? The benefit is, by knowing this knowledge, you will not come back to this material world. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo vetti tatvatah tektva deham punarjanma naiti mameti sorjuna. By understanding this knowledge, you will not come back to this material world, you will go back to spiritual world. That's the benefit. Okay. Then he says, Vetaraga bhayakrodha manmaya mamupashritaha bahuvo jnana tapasa puta madbhavam agataha. In the past, many great souls, they have given up Vita raga bhayakrodha. Raga means attachment, bhaya means fear, and krodha means anger. So these three things they have given up, and they have taken shelter of me. And by getting this knowledge, jnana tapasa means by endeavoring to attain this spiritual knowledge, because it requires some effort. There is some tapasya involved in understanding. Like most of you are trying to read Bhagavad Gita, sometimes you are not understanding. So it's tapasya. So that's called jnana tapasa. So by doing this jnana tapasya, what happens? Puta, we get purified. And then you'll get bhava, madbhava. You'll get feelings for the Lord. Agataha, you'll attain that stage of emotion, devotional feelings to Krishna. So for that one has to give up raga, bhaya and krodha. And then one can attain Krishna. So in the purport, more details are given. So you can read the purport also. Prabhupada says raga means attachment to material things. Bhaya means fear of spiritual form. So some impersonalists, they want to merge in the form of the Brahma Jyoti because of fear of a form. So Prabhupada says one should not have fearful of spiritual form. Spiritual form is different than material form. In material form, we get pain. Right? We get birth, death, old age, disease. But in spiritual form, there is no birth, death, old age and disease. So one can peacefully go to spiritual world. And krodha, one gets angry because of material sufferings, and then one want to give up this material world and merge in Brahma Jyoti. So that's the meaning of krodha. So Prabhupada says one should give up all these 3, then one can attain emotions, ecstasy for Krishna. So in this way, these first 10 shlokas deal with the transcendental knowledge about Krishna. So after speaking about this knowledge, Krishna says, I'll show a PPT now. Yeah, the second section is here, accurate understanding. So these 3 questions we will discuss. Do all paths lead to the same goal? Why is there worship of many gods? Is caste system not exploitative? So these 3 points will come here. Now, Krishna's dedicated devotees consider his birth and activities to be divine and eternal, but others who approach him with different goals do not consider so. What about them? Right? Those, they don't consider Krishna to the ultimate goal. So what they do? For them, Krishna says, "Ye athamam prapadyante." Like somebody worships me to get wealth, I'll give them wealth. If somebody worships me to go to Swargam, I'll give them Swargam. Ye athamam prapadyante. In whatever way they have come to me, I reciprocate. If somebody says, "I want you, Krishna, I want friendship with you," then Krishna says, "Okay, come, I will take you." So in that way, we can approach Krishna. Like you see photos here, Gajendra prayed to Krishna when he was in anxiety. So Lord came to protect Gajendra, right? So here Lord is protecting Ambarish Maharaj because Ambarish Maharaj is a surrendered devotee, and here Dhruv Maharaj is being blessed by the Lord. Because Dhruv Maharaj wanted a kingdom greater than Brahmaji, and Lord Vishnu blessed him. Because you want this, you take this. You become the master of Dhruva Loka. And then Krishna, Sudama came with extreme pure love, and so Krishna is worshipping his lotus feet. So that is also Yathamam Prabhadev. What PPT is not visible?
Yes, Prabhuji, it's still in the slide properly knowing Krishna's appearance.
Acha, you are able to see now?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Now it's coming? Okay. So I told you Gajendra, Ambarish Maharaj, Dhruv Maharaj, and Sudama. So how Krishna is reciprocating accordingly. And if somebody is envious of Krishna, then Krishna will kill him. That is a reciprocation. Like Shishupal was blaspheming Krishna. Then Lord Krishna took chakra and then cut off his head. And that is also Krishna's mercy on him. By killing Shishupal, he is delivering him. So more about this we'll discuss later when we discuss about Krishna's equality. That comes in the middle 6 chapters in the second module. And some people worship demigods. Why people worship demigods? When they understand that Krishna is supreme, why do they go to demigods? Because they want quick results. Kankshanta karmanam siddhim yajanta iha devata kshipram hi manushe loke siddhir bhavati karmaja kshipram hi manushe loke. Somebody want quick material benefits, they will worship devatas like Shiva or Ganesha or Durga. Generally you see that Durga worshippers or Shiva worshippers are rich. But sometimes Krishna worshippers may be poor. Then people think, hey, better to worship the other demigods. No. When you worship other devatas with desire for material enjoyment, you will get material enjoyment, but you will not get prema. You will not go back to God. But if you worship Krishna, then Krishna will provide you whatever you need. He will surely provide whatever you need, and also will give you Krishna prema. He will take you back home, back to God. So that is a connection. Like there are, like Hiranyakashipu is worshipping Brahmaji. That's an example. And Yavarkasura is worshipping Lord Shiva. And there are so many other devatas like Kartikeya, Hanuman, Ganesh, Durga, people worship to get quick benefits. But if you worship Krishna, you will get back to Godhead. But if by worshipping devatas, you will not go back home, back to Godhead. You may go to Swarga or you may get material benefits in this world. So then, the question. The paths of bhakti and jnana give liberation, but the path of karma leads to bondage. Does it mean that there is some inequality in Krishna, the creator of all paths? That's the question. And why Krishna has created so many paths? He should have made only one path, worship me only. Why is also encouraging worship of devatas? So that's told here. No, Krishna has created the 4 varnas for people who have particular desires for enjoyment. According to their desires, Lord is facilitating certain kind of path for them. And now comes the 4 paths or 4 categories, or you can say spiritual divisions. Chatur Varnyam Maya Srishtam Guna Karma Vibhagashah Tasya Kartaram Apimam Vidya Kartaram Avyayam. So there are 4 varnas. Varna means divisions. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. So here is the Brahmana, here is a Kshatriya, here is a merchant Vaishya and there is Shudra. So they are doing different kinds of activities. And they are categorized based on guna and karma. Okay, based upon their quality and activity. Vibhagashaha. Krishna is not saying janma and karma. He is telling guna and karma. Right? So nowadays what caste system is coming? Right now what caste system is there, that's based upon birth. If somebody is born in Brahman family, okay, Brahman, okay, you wear a thread and you call yourself as a Brahmana, but he may not have the qualities of a Brahmana. If somebody is claiming to be Brahmana, he should have qualities of a Brahmana. Now, can you say judge's son as a judge? If somebody is a judge, will you call his son also as a judge? No, right? So similarly, if somebody is a guru, then how can you call his son as a guru? It is ridiculous. If somebody is in a position of a guru, then his son should also develop the qualities of a guru to claim himself to be a guru. If he is not having qualities, you have to reject him. Right? Is not the guru system is not like family system. Somebody who is qualified, he becomes a guru. So similarly, somebody who is qualified as a Brahmana, he becomes a Brahmana. Similarly, somebody who is qualified as a Kshatriya, he becomes a Kshatriya. And Kshatriyas are warriors. They fight to protect the nation and the country. So when like soldiers, when the war comes, they become excited. Yes, we'll fight for the country. We can give our life for the country. So that is a Kshatriya, right? And his enthusiasm increases when he sees blood. So that is a Kshatriya. And Vaishya means he knows how to take 10 rupees and make it 1,000 rupees. That's the Vaishya. So not everybody is having these qualities. No? So like some businessmen, they know how to invest and get a lot of profit. That's the Vaishya. And the Shudras, they assist in the duties of Brahmana, Kshatriya and Vaishyas. Even Shudras are also very cultured. Right? We have a conception that Shudra means who is dirty or lying on the street. He is Shudra. No. Shudras are also very cultured because they are following the Varnashrama. They're coming in they are called civilized people. These four are civilized people. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. And then there are outcasts. Outcasts means those who don't follow the system of these four Varnas. They are like Chandalas, dog eaters, Melechas, Yavanas. There are many other terms also for them. So these four are very cultured people. So we should respect four of them because of their activities. Guna, Karma, Vibhagasha, not based on birth. Okay. So Prabhupada says in the purport, so these four categories are based on the modes of nature. So Brahmanas are mainly in the mode of goodness, Sattvaguna. Yeah, Brahmanas are mainly in the mode of goodness. Next is administrative class, technically called Kshatriyas due to their being situated in mode of passion, Rajoguna. And the mercantile men called the Vaishyas are situated in the mixed mode of passion and ignorance. Because that's guna. They've got those gunas. And the Shudras or labor classes are situated in the ignorant mode of nature called Tamoguna. So based upon their Sattuguna, Rajoguna or Tamoguna combinations, they are categorized into different. And how can you see what is their gunas? By their activities. Right? So more about this we'll discuss in the 18th chapter. So we'll have to wait till 18th chapter because Krishna elaborates this topic in the 18th chapter. Specifically, these are the qualities of Brahmana, then Kshatriya, then Shudra, Vaishya. He says very clearly. So that's coming there. So in the last session, it will come. Okay. So I'll go back to the PPT. So then question may come. Krishna has appeared in Kshatriya family and performs activities obligated to Kshatriya. How to understand his activities? Right? Krishna, are you a Kshatriya? Krishna says, no. Namam karmani limpanti name karma phalaspriha iti mam yobhijanati karma virnasa badhyate. He says, actually in the previous sloka only he says, Tasya kartaram apyam vidya kartaram avyam. Although I have created them, all these four varnas I have only created, but I am not bound by them. I am beyond them. Vidya akartaram avyayam. I am transcendental. Krishna says. Then he says, I have no desire to do any work. That's why I don't desire any results also. Right? I'm not bound for any work. Like because I'm born in a Kshatriya family, I'm supposed to act as a Kshatriya? No. I'm not supposed to. But still I will act to set an example for others. So that people will not take a wrong example from me and commit adharma. So that's why I act in a proper way. So iti mam yo bijanati karmabir nasa badhyate. It's telling if you, the hearers of Gita, if you understand that Krishna is not a Brahmana, not a Kshatriya, not a Vaishya, not a Shudra. He is transcendental. He is the original personality, and he has created these four varnas for our benefit. Karma birnasa badhyate. He is not bound by karma. So then Krishna says, by understanding about me, all the liberated souls in ancient times did their work without desire. Right? So if you do work without desire for results, but you work only for pleasure of Krishna, then you get liberated. That is called karma yoga. Nowadays, mainly people are doing karma kanda because they want to enjoy the fruits of their action. But yoga means what? You renounce the fruits of your action for Krishna's pleasure. That's called yoga. Having said that one has to work according to examples of previous bona fide devotees, Krishna will now explain why one's action should not be independent. So then starts the next section called removing reactions. Section 16 to 24. So here Krishna is telling about why we should do activities prescribed in the Vedas. We should not do independent activities. That's told here. So Krishna says, Karmano hyapi bodhavyam cha vikarmanah, akarmanascha bodhavyam gahana karmano gatihi. He's telling karma is very difficult to understand. Okay. Gahana means very intricate. Gahana karmano gatihi. Because why we are getting what reaction, we do not know. It's difficult to understand. Let me open one photo if is there. Yeah. This is very one famous photograph which is coming in. See, this is called karma and action and reaction. So this person is killing a cow. You will see that this person is having the face of a cow and this cow is having the face of a man. It means what? If he is killing a cow, in the next life he will get the body of a cow and he will be killed by somebody else. That's called action and reaction. So it's very intricate. So if you do any action, reaction will immediately come. Now suppose you are falling sick because of malaria. Why we got malaria? We say immediate causes, mosquito bit me. Why did mosquito bit me? So many mosquitoes bite me every day, but which mosquito bit me and why did it bite me, at what time it bit me? That we cannot know. Right? So what we can know is, because I have done some karma in the past, I was supposed to get this fever. So I got this fever and this mosquito became the instrument of getting this fever. We cannot blame the mosquito, nor can we catch it. But we can understand, okay, I've done some sinful reactions in the past. That's why the reactions come, let it come. We have to suffer it. We cannot fight against it. And no matter sometimes how much medicines you take, disease will not go. You just have to wait for the karma to go. Then only the disease will go. You go to this doctor, that doctor. So the quantity of quota of suffering which is supposed to come, that has to come. Then only the suffering will go away. So that's called karma. So there are three kinds of karma. There is karmana, there is vikarma, and there is akarma. Karma means prescribed action. Means for a brahmana, it is teaching, right? Patan patan, yajan yajan, dana pratigraha, right? Learning and teaching, and doing yajna, and helping others to do yajna, and accepting charity and giving charity. These are the qualities of brahmana, duties of brahmana. That's a prescribed duty. And kshatriya, it is fighting and protecting the people. Vaishya, it is to krishi goraksha vanijya, right? Cow protection, agriculture, and business. And for shudra, it is to do anything which is required for these top three varnas. That's prescribed duties. Vikarma means that which is prohibited, like smoking, drinking, or illicit sex. They're all prohibited. Maintaining a slaughterhouse is prohibited. So thievery or robbery, earning money with thievery and robbery, that's also prohibited. That's called vikarma. That will give severe reactions. And akarma means akarma. When you add a, it negates. So akarma means that activities which doesn't produce any reaction. That's called akarma. They are spiritual activities. So one should try to do spiritual activities. How to do? Krishna says here, one who sees inaction in action and action in inaction is intelligent among the men. So it's a very intricate word actually. One should see inaction in action. Inaction means akarma, action means karma. So for example, I'm cooking. Okay, it's an action. It's an action. I'm lighting fire and I'm putting some oil and putting chalk and doing so many things. It's action. But if you're cooking for the pleasure of the Lord, then it becomes inaction, because it will not generate any karma. Because you cook and you offer it to the Lord, then take it as prasad, that becomes karma-free diet. So whatever activities were involved in that process of cooking will become karma-free. That's a karma. But if somebody is cooking in a hotel, thinking, oh, this much kilo I have put here, this amount is 1,000 rupees, I have to make 5,000 rupees profit out of it. I'll put this much rate for this. And in this way, he will calculate profit and loss, and then he's cooking. That's called karma. It will generate reactions for him. But if you're renouncing the fruits of action and doing it for the pleasure of the Lord, you get no reaction. So that's why one should try to do akarma. This is called inaction in action. Cease inaction in action. And action in inaction, or means what, somebody is sitting simply but thinking of sense gratification. That's still action. He'll get reactions for it. So he is the intelligent. Pandita. Tamahu panditam buddha, Krishna says. Right? So some of the examples for inaction, like if you are a cashier, you are counting money and putting in the account, and sometimes you take from the account and give it to the customer. You don't take anything in between. So that's called inaction. Right? You have become a transparent by medium, so you don't get karma. But if you take 1 penny, you will get reaction. They'll put you in jail. Similarly, soldier killing on the battlefield, he doesn't get any reaction because he has been ordered to kill. But if he kills a neighbor, he is arrested. Similarly, Arjuna fighting Dharma Yuddha, no reaction. But Duryodhana fighting for selfish plan, reaction. Right? Unwinding and winding of spool of tape recorder, no? Like, yeah. So is unwinding here and winding here. So when you serve Krishna, then what is happening? You are unwinding, right? Your karma is getting destroyed. But if you are serving your own selfishness, you are winding up in more and more karma. So that's how you can understand this. Yeah. So of course, this is a deep topic. Maybe I'll discuss this separately. Science of karma. About some people say, okay, if karma is there, then everything is happening because of karma. So I'm helpless. Right? Even my choices are also determined by karma. No, sir. Karma determines our situations. But our choice we have to make. Right? Destiny determines the consequences of action, but not our actions themselves. Okay. This quote from Mahabharata. Some say karma is supreme. Right? Everything is happening because of karma. So jo hona hai hone do. And so karma means what? Karma means I will do action and will get reaction. That success depends upon me. That is karma. And daivad means everything is happening because of God. That's what they say. Nothing is in my hand. Everything is in God's hand. So these are extremes actually. People think extremes. Actually, it's a combination. We do our part and God does his part. We put the seeds and wait for the rain. So putting seed is our effort, but giving rain is Krishna's effort. So in this way, a combination of both will give results. So karma is also not correct, daivad is also not correct. A combination of both is the correct understanding. So then, when you this section describes, so this is title is called Inaction in Action, Symptoms of Detached Worker. This section describes the qualities of a person who is in the state of inaction or having no reactions to work, although performing actions. So such person who is doing akarma, he will develop knowledge. He will get purified, and the knowledge of the soul and Paramatma awakens in the heart. And that jnana burns away karmas. Jnanagni dagdha karmani. He will become completely pure. Just like when you put fire to wood, the wood also gets burnt. Similarly, the jnana burns away all the karmic reactions. We do karma, we do actions for Krishna, and that actions only previous sinful reactions. So there are two stages. In the initial stage, the karmas are destroyed, and in the perfected state, he will attain consciousness of Krishna. He will become samagram praviliyate. All his actions will become spiritualized and he will attain the Supreme Lord. So that is the perfected stage or arudha stage. So these two stages are described in verse 20 and 21, 22 and 23. So then one may ask the question, if one should perform actions for the purpose of yajna, what type of yajna is this? So then Krishna goes on to explain different types of yajna. Okay. Brahmarpanam brahmahavi, brahmagno brahmanahutam, brahmaivatena gantavyam, brahma karma samadhina. So Krishna is telling here that what is yajna? Yajna is nothing but utilizing the items in this world and offering it back to the Lord. So that's called yajna. Yajna is also name of Krishna or Vishnu. Yajna Purusha is called. In the previous chapter, there are some words called Yajna Purusha which came. I gave some questions also based on that. So Brahma Arpanam. So we should understand that everything in this world is spiritual because everything is coming from Krishna. Right? So Krishna is spiritual. This world also has come from him. Om Purnam Madaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. This is a Upanishadic verse which says, because Lord is spiritual, everything coming from him is also spiritual. It cannot be material. Only thing when you see disconnected from the Lord, it becomes material. For example, this is my phone. So now, is this material or spiritual? It appears to be material, right? Because it's made of plastic and silicon. These material elements. But these items are also created by the Lord. How can it be material? If Lord is spiritual, something which is coming from the Lord is also spiritual. Right? Essentially, this is spiritual. But if I say that, but when I see that this is meant for my enjoyment, then it becomes material. But then if I see it as this is meant for serving Krishna, so that I can talk to people and preach to people and exchange Krishna Katha, then it becomes spiritual. And Srila Prabhupada used to say the mic is material, but when you use it in Krishna service, that becomes spiritual. Similarly, he's telling Brahma Arpanam. In a yajna, they make a yajna kunda, which represents the mouth of Vishnu, and the fire represents the tongue of Vishnu. And the ladle is there, which is called srag, from which they take ghee and they pour it into the mouth of Vishnu, and they feed the ghee into the mouth of Vishnu. So Brahma Arpanam, that ladle is also spiritual. Brahma Arpanam, Brahma Havi, and even the ghee is also spiritual. Brahma Agno, the fire is also spiritual. Brahmana Hutam, the process of offering it, is also spiritual. Brahmana, even the offerer, spiritual, is also spiritual. Right? The priest is spiritual, and even the Yajaman, he is spiritual. So in this way, all the spiritual ingredients which are given by the Lord, you offer it back to the Lord. Brahma Arpanam, Brahma Havi, Brahmagno, Brahmana Hutam, Brahmaiva Tena Gantavyam. You will attain Brahman. Brahma Karma Samadhina, because you are thinking of Brahman, Supreme Lord. So here what it means, thinking of Supreme Brahman means Krishna, right? Because Krishna is the Supreme Parabrahman. In the 10th chapter, Krishna says, Parabrahma, Paramdhama, Pavitram, Paramam Bhavan. He says, you are Parabrahma, right? We are Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi, but we are tiny Brahman. And Krishna is Parabrahman. We are Atma, but Krishna is Parama Atma. And when you add the word Param means Supreme. So Atma, Paramatma, Brahman, Parabrahman. So that's the difference between us and Krishna. So that has to be understood. So some people misunderstand this verse. They say, I am Brahman. This fire is Brahman. God is Brahman. So Brahman enters into Brahman. Right? Brahmaiva tena gantavyam Brahma karma samadhina. And we'll merge our identity in Supreme and we'll become one with the Supreme. So that kind of interpretation also people give, but that is not in Parampara. So the Parampara Acharyas have written, I have explained it, that we maintain our individuality, but we become spiritual. Okay? Hare Krishna.
video
Okay. Some distraction. Okay. So we are actually spiritual, but we enter into the service of the Lord. So that's the meaning of this. Okay. So we'll go to the next verse, which, having explained that sacrifice uncovers Brahman, Krishna now lists different types of sacrifices. Okay. So the last section is called sacrifice. So here you will see in 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. In these 5 shlokas, Krishna is telling about different kinds of sacrifice. Daivameva pare yajnam, there is Daiva yajna in 25a. 25a means first half shloka. Daivam yajnam. Some people worship the devatas because they have faith in the devatas. So they worship them for what? Material benefits. Yoginah pariyupasate. So some karma yogis, they want material benefits. So they worship demigods. So then Brahmagnav apare yajnam. So some worship the impersonal Brahman. And they want to enter into the fire of the Brahman. They're Gyanis. And then Brahmacharis, which is mentioned in verse 26, Shrotradrin Indriyanyanye Samyamagneshu Juvati. They control the senses. Brahmacharis offer senses in the fire of mind control. And they control the senses from distractions and they engage it in Brahme Charati iti Brahmachari. One is always thinking of Supreme Lord. He is called as Brahmachari. So that's a sacrifice for the Brahmacharis. And for Grahasthas, what is sacrifice? They have to control sense enjoyment. Right? Shabdadin Vishyan Anya Indriyagnishu Juvati. Grahasthas, family people, they offer sense objects in the fire of senses in a regulated way. Right? They need to, like in Grahastha family life, they earn money. It is also one kind of sense object. From that they get some facilities in home, refrigerator, fridge and everything. Because they need such things. They use it. But Brahmacharis may not need that. They'll not need. They do everything on their own. And they control the senses. But Grahasthas, they need to engage the senses. Right? So that's called as sacrifice for the Grahasthas. They can produce children, but Brahmacharis don't. So that regulated sense enjoyment is allowed for Grahasthas. And there are some Ashtanga yogis who practice self-control, like Patanjali Yoga system. Followers of Patanjali Yoga system offer functions of their senses in the life years, pranayama. Right? So especially one of the qualities of one of the limbs of Ashtanga yoga is pranayama, where apanavayu, pranavayu and apanavayu. Pranavayu means that which air which is coming out of the nostrils, and apanavayu is that which is going down from the nostrils down. So that's called apana. So they control prana and apana and they make it samana, means they bring it to equilibrium. And in that way, they try to control the prana and the senses. So that's called sacrifice for the Ashtanga yogis. And some do dravya yajna. Dravya yajna means giving charity of dravya. Dravya means clothes. It may mean grains. It can mean money. So this is called dravya. Right? Like people do charity work. Prabhupada says distribution of food, education and medical treatment for the poor. That's dravya yajna. And some people start old age homes, hospitals and charitable foundations. That's also dravya yajna. And some people do tapo yajna. They perform severe tapasyas, like doing chaturmasya vrata. Like in some societies, they don't shave up. They follow chaturmasya. They don't travel. They stay in one place and they eat once in a day. So that kind of vrata they do. So that's called tapo yajna. And then some do mysticism, yoga yajna, to get ashta siddhis, anima, laghima, mahima, prapti, different kind of siddhis they want. So that is yoga yajna. And some do swadhyaya yajna, scriptural study, by studying Sanskrit for 12 years and then mastering Sanskrit and going deep into the study of the Shastras. That's swadhyaya yajna. And especially reading Vedanta Sutra is very difficult. So they do that kind of thing. And last verse is pranayama. In the pranayama, they control the breathing process. Puraka, Rechaka, and Kumbhaka. Puraka means exiting the air, Rechaka means inhaling the air, and Kumbhaka means holding the air. In that way, they curtail the whole thing, and they also control their eating. Okay. So when you fast, senses become controlled. They become weak and controlled. So that's why this is also recommended. So in this way, these different kinds of sacrifices are mentioned. And when does these sacrifices, automatically the jnana which is there will awaken. Jnana is already there in the soul, that has to be awakened. Just like fire is there in the wood, right? Fire is already there in the wood. You just have to kindle it. When you kindle it, then fire blazes. Similarly, knowledge is there in the heart. It has to be kindled by this process of yajna, sacrifice. So that was explained by Krishna here. Then he says, what is the purpose of sacrifice? Yajna kshapita kalmashaha. All the sins will be destroyed by this kind of sacrifice. Then he says, without sacrifice, you cannot be happy in this life nor in the next. Right? If you do sacrifice in this life, you'll be happy because you are getting purified. And if you do sacrifice in this life, next life you'll get more. Right? So if you do charity of water, in next life you'll not have any shortage of water. You'll get abundant water because you are given dana of water. If you give food, you'll not have shortage of food in the next life. So better is to practice giving rather than taking. Right? So that is the act of sacrifice. There is selfishness and there is sacrifice in nature. So one should sacrifice. So somebody had given me a band. There is written Srila Prabhupada ki jai, and it is written be a giver. So he gifted, I put it here. Vaisheshik through one of the senior disciples of Prabhupada, he had come and given this. This tells the mission of ISKCON actually. We are meant to give knowledge, right? So one aspect of Akshay Patra is they give food. There's Annadan. But better than Annadan is Jnanadan, which is told in verse number 33. Jnana culminates in Jnana. Yajna culminates in Jnana. Shreyan dravya mayad yajna jnana yajna parantapa. It's telling you. Shreyan means better. Better than dravya yajna is jnana yajna. So one should understand that doing activity with knowledge is more better than just doing the activity. Right? Like for example, you are chanting Hare Krishna. Okay, just chanting Hare Krishna is wonderful. But chanting Hare Krishna with understanding the meaning of chanting Hare Krishna, that is even better because you're doing with jnana. So, what is the meaning of Hare Krishna? Oh Krishna, oh energy of Krishna, oh Hare, energy of Krishna, oh Krishna, kindly engage me in your service. So that's the meaning of Hare Krishna mantra. So, no, and even reciting shlokas, understanding the meaning is much better than just reciting shlokas. It's Shriyan Dravamaya Yajna, Jnana Yajna Parantapa. So that's better. So now, so last few shlokas, Krishna says one important concept here. Now, one way of getting this knowledge is through sacrifice, doing sacrifices. Another easy way to gain knowledge is what? By approaching a bona fide guru. Okay, this is the most important thing Krishna is telling. Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshinah. Krishna is telling, if you want to gain knowledge, there's another shortcut. Just go to a guru, bona fide guru, who knows the truth. Tattva darshina. See the last line, tattva darshina. If you go to tattva darshi guru and you have to do three things with him: pranipata, surrender to him. Okay, like here in this photo you will see Sanatan Goswami is surrendering to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Very humbly he is holding the feet, surrendering, pranipata. Pariprashnena, he is asking questions. Sanatan Goswami is asking, who am I? What is the goal of life? And why am I suffering? So that question he asked. So one should inquire, pariprashna. And one will get the answer. And after getting the answer, one should serve, sevaya. So by doing these three things, one will attain perfection. Pranipata, pariprashna, and seva. Like seva, you can do in temples. Many opportunities are there. Like some people come and do garlands, and some do cleaning, some bring vegetables and give for the service of the Lord. Some give donations, and this is some service is going on. By that service, what happens? Jnana awakens. That knowledge becomes realized. So theoretical knowledge becomes realized knowledge. So that's the process explained by Krishna here. So by knowing this knowledge, there is no bewilderment. You will not get into moha again, thinking that I am this body. No, you will be fixed in the knowledge of the soul and Paramatma. There is no bewilderment. And not only that, you will be fixed in the knowledge of Atma, but you will see everybody as Atma. Drakshasi Atmani Atho Mai. You will see that everybody is a part and parcel of Krishna. Everybody is spirit soul. It may be a human being or animal or tree. You will see its connection to the Lord. So that spiritual vision will be developed. And even if you are very sinful, api cheda asi papebhya sarvebhya papakrittamah. Even if you committed all the sins mentioned, murder, thievery, cheating, telling lies, and so you may list all the sins. Even if you done everything, still you can overcome all those sinful reactions by this jnana. Jnana palaveneva vrijinam santarishyasi. And then he says, by understanding this jnana, jnanagni sarva karmani bhasmasat kurute. All the sinful reactions will be bhasmasat, will be destroyed. Then he says, this knowledge is the purest. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram miha vidyate tatsvayam yoga samsiddha kalenatmani vindati. So this is the purest knowledge, and by practicing this, kalena, eventually you will attain me. Then Arjuna asking, how long? You are telling me kalena eventually. How long it will take? Krishna says, achirena. If you have faith, shraddhaval, and if you are tatpara, you are surrendered, then you are sense controlled, samyat indriya. If you are having these qualities of faith and surrender and sense control, very quickly you will get. Example is Narada boy. So Narada boy, in the previous life he was Narada boy, his son of a servant maid, and he happened to serve some great souls in Chaturmas. By doing that service in 4 months, he got such spiritual awakening that in the next life he became Narada Muni, and is taking his veena and going everywhere and preaching Krishna Bhakti. So that's the power of the Shraddha, serving with faith. And if somebody is not having Shraddha, then no hope. Samshayatma vinashati. And he will not be happy in this life nor in the next life. So now in the conclusion, these two are the concluding shlokas of 4th chapter. So yoga sanyasta karmanam jnana sanchinna samshayam atmavantam na karmani nibandhanti dhananjaya. So yoga sanyasta karmanam means work dedicated to me, and you will develop jnana, and then you will engage in my service in that way. Na karmani nibandhanti, you will not get any reactions. Okay, he told this shloka. Next shloka he says fight. Atishta bharata. So 41st shloka he said, you think of you be always dedicated to me and engage your activities in service of me. You will get free from reactions. And next shloka is telling fight. Atishta bharata. In this consciousness you fight, he said. Then Arjuna gets, again you are telling the same thing. He gets confused. And 5th chapter begins with same question. Sannyasam karmanam Krishna. Among sannyas and karma, which is better? Tell me. So again, further, next chapter is entitled Action in Krishna Consciousness. Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness. So this chapter 3, 4 and 5 discuss Karma Yoga. So that will be more elaborated in the next chapter, and we will see who is the topmost Karma Yogi in the next chapter and how to attain peace. So next chapter we will also learn about peace formula. So that we will discuss next Sunday. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for your patient listening to this 4th chapter. Now if you have any questions, we can take some questions. I'll just see in the chat. Some questions are coming. Okay. Akansha Sharma is asking, will it be wrong if we have lusty feeling only to our partner or to one specific person but don't feel for anyone? Is it also a sinful activity? Yeah. So, so this lusty feeling is lust. So that lust enjoyment, it is one of the enemies, and it is there in the heart. So that's why there is a system of marriage. If one is getting too much disturbed by this lust, then one should get married, and within the married life, one can fulfill this. So we'll read about this in the later 7th chapter, where Krishna says that dharma aviruddha bhuteshu kamosmi. This kama, I am, which is not against religious principles. So means sex life is allowed within husband and wife only, and any other thing is vikarma, it's sinful. And that too, sex life within family for producing children is sanctioned, and sex life just for recreation is not sanctioned in the Shastras. So one should avoid any recreational lusty activities, but one should engage it only for producing children. And that is also science. There is a science called Garbhadhana Samskara, where there are rules and regulations given of how to produce a child so that one gets a first class child, not a Varna Sankara. So, and what is the point in regulating? So that by regulating and using this desire in a way to produce spiritual children, one gets freed from this desire only. Eventually, one becomes free from all the attractions of sex life and becomes free from that. So ultimately, one has to become free from this lust, but initially we have to regulate it, okay, by following it under Shastras. Okay. So there's one other question. Energy neither be created nor be destroyed, but it can transform from one form to another form. It derived from soul, neither be created nor be destroyed. Transform one body to another body. Acha, he is giving a comment. Yeah, energy can neither be created nor destroyed. So because energy is eternal. That's true. So similarly, soul is also eternal. Soul is eternal and material energy is also eternal. Soul cannot be destroyed, nor can it be created. Natvivaham jatonasam natvam neme janadivam. It can neither be created nor destroyed. It's eternal. Similarly, material world is also eternal. Material energy is eternal, but the form of matter is temporary. Okay. So, for example, if you have a piece of wood, okay, so wood is there. When you burn it, it becomes ash. That material has got transformed into ash, but energy is conserved. Okay, some part of it becomes heat, and some part of it has become ash. So energy is there; it just transformed, and that ash becomes for part of the mud. And from that mud, suppose in that place you put a tree, and that same ash becomes part of the tree, and the tree may be cut off and then made into a table, and you may be working on the table. So that energy is getting different shapes, but energy itself remains eternal. Okay. So even material energy is also eternal, spiritual energy is also eternal. I think that was Rahul's question. Isn't it? Your name is not correctly written here, but I think it's Rahul. Okay, any other question? Okay, Avanish is asking, Prabhuji, then why we give Bali to Mata Kali in prayers? Okay, good question. So Bali is a concept which is there especially for Kali Mata. Actually, it is not good, but it is allowed for those who are adamantly wanting to eat flesh. Okay, so Shastras do not reject anybody, they accommodate people at different levels. Some are atheistic, so atheism was also given in Shastra. Like there are some rishis like Charvak Muni who are atheists. They say that who knows next life exists, just enjoy this life. No? He says, Yavat jivet sugam jivet ghrutam pibet kutha punaragamam bhavet, they say. So they say that there is no next life, just enjoy this life. So atheism is also there for such category of people, so that they'll be gradually promoted to higher status. Even Lord Buddha also in one sense propagated atheism, right? Because there's no clear concept of God in Buddhism. So in order to take the atheists to follow God, Buddha gave his Buddhism philosophy. Buddha is incarnation of Vishnu only. And there are karmakandis who want enjoyment, and some of the karmakandis they want to eat flesh. So for them it is recommended, okay, if you want to eat flesh, then you offer on the Amavasya night, don't eat every day. On Amavasya night, you offer to a Kali deity far away from the village, and you chant the mantra Mam Saha. Mam Saha means Mam Saha, I'll become you in the next life. So that's the mantra to chant. And then you cut and offer to Kali and divide it into 7 or 8 parts, and you distribute all the parts and keep one part for you for eating. This is the actual ritual. It's not that you go and take from the slaughterhouse and eat it. No. And you only have to cut. Right? The person who wants to eat, he only has to cut. Not that somebody else cuts and he eats. No. So that by cutting, he will see at least kya ho raha hai uska haal, no? That animal is crying in pain. But nowadays, somebody else cuts and somebody else eats. People don't know what happens. And one of the persons said that if the slaughterhouses were made of glass walls, there will be no vegetarians, non-vegetarians. Everybody will become a vegetarian because somebody sees that bloodshed. How can he eat it, right? So, yeah. So Kali Mata, some people offer Bali, but if they follow the rules and regulations, they will eventually stop it. But nowadays, what is happening? They are not following the rules and regulations. They are simply telling Durga Prasad and eating it. No. Okay, so Girish Puru is asking, Aham Brahmasmi is not true. It is true in the sense I am spiritual. See, Brahma has meaning, different meanings. Brahman means spirit, Atma. Brahman also means Parabrahman, Supreme Lord, Krishna. Brahman also means material world. Okay, so in this there are different meanings for the word Brahman in the dictionary. Aham Brahmasmi means I am a tiny Brahman. Right? I am like fire and the spark of fire. Both have same nature. Both have light. Both have heat. But fire has got a lot of heat. Spark of fire, tiny heat. And the spark of fire is dependent on the fire. Similarly, the Atma is also Brahman, but we are dependent on Parabrahman. So that's the difference. Eko bahunam yo vidadati kaman, right? Chetanas chetananam, nityo nityanam, eko bahunam yo vidadati kaman. So like this in the Upanishad that is said, Shvetashvatara Upanishad. Right? There are many Brahmans and there is one supreme Brahman. That is Parabrahman. Right? So more about this will be discussed in 7th chapter and 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna is telling clearly about Atma and Paramatma. So the 15th chapter is called Purushottama Yoga. There Lord is telling Atma is also Purusha, but Purushottama is Krishna. Okay, we are also Brahman, but we are tiny Brahman, like drop of salt water, and Krishna is like the ocean, right? So there's a difference. Okay, so Aham Brahmasmi is true, but in the sense that we are like Krishna, but we are not Krishna. Now, Girish Puru is asking, why was 9th avatar is Buddha, which is actually a threat to Sanatana Dharma, Hindutva, as Buddhism spreading across country in the times where people worship Buddha and not Lord Krishna? It worries me. Yeah, so Buddhism was specifically meant for people who are actually there's one shloka, Nindasi yajna videraha shruti jatam sadaya hridaya darshita pashughatam keshavadreta buddha sharira daya jagadisha hare. So here it is said that Buddha, seeing that people were using the Vedas to slaughter animals, Nindasi yajna videra. So people were misusing the Vedas and killing animals. So Buddha came and said, stop this. You are misusing Vedas, the Brahman, the word of the Brahman, and you are misinterpreting. So stop. Don't believe in Vedas right now. Stop. Keep them aside. Ahimsa paramo dharma. He gave that philosophy. Just practice ahimsa. That is the highest. Because people's level had become so degraded, they cannot understand God, what to speak of serving God. They said, just follow ahimsa. So he made that uniform all over the world. So ahimsa. So then after that, Shankaracharya came and he said, Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman, understand Brahman. So we are also Brahman, that is also Brahman. So he gave a vague philosophy of unified oneness, Advaita philosophy, that God and Jiva are one. So that was spoken by Shankaracharya. Then Ramanujacharya came and he said Vishishta Advaita. Yes, God and Jiva are one, but in quality only. Right? Quality wise Satchidananda, we both are Satchidananda in quality, but quantity were different. Then Madhvacharya came and said, no, duality. Jiva and Ishvara are different in quantity, he said. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and he said, Achinta Bheda Bheda. We are one in quality but different in quantity. So in this way, gradually the understanding of the people evolved by these acharyas who came and preached. So in one sense, Buddhism is also propagated by the Lord to trick that kind of category of people who are misusing the Vedas to at least come to the platform of ahimsa. Okay. So that was the purpose of Buddhism. And people who are at that level, they'll follow that. So we don't have to get worried about it. Okay. So we just have to follow our Sanatana Dharma and try to convince people that God exists. In Buddhism, there is no clear conception of God. You ask them who is God, they don't say. They cannot say also because it is not taught to them. So, and the next life, they don't believe. They believe in nirvana. After death, there is nothing. So that is the philosophy they have. Okay. How to kill our bad karmas? Yeah. So by understanding this knowledge, we can kill our bad karmas. And by understanding this knowledge, we should serve Krishna. When you understand that Krishna is supreme, we serve Krishna. And by this bhakti yoga, which we do, we are destroying karmas. Even by chanting Hare Krishna, our karmas are getting destroyed. Cheto darpanamarjanam bhavamahadavagni nirvapanam. And by chanting this mantra, all the sufferings in the life are getting reduced and karma is also getting destroyed. Karmani nirdahati kintu cha bhakti bhajam. So when you serve Krishna, karmas will automatically go away. So you don't have to worry. You just worry about serving Krishna, chanting Krishna's names, taking prasadam, and karmas will automatically go away. That's a side effect. It will go away. Omkar is telling, Dandat Pranam, Hare Krishna. Many of us are preparing for competitive exams. So what kind of sadhana in terms of chanting, reading, here, listening, we should do to maintain balance between study as well as Krishna? Very beautiful question. So just like you set aside a time for your studies, you can set aside time for your sadhana also, right? Now it depends upon what kind of competitive exams and what how much demand of time is there for it. But still, I think you can take out 1 hour every day. Whatever you are. How many rounds you are chanting, Omkar? 16 rounds. Okay. So if you're chanting 16 rounds, it may take about 1 hour 40 minutes or 2 hours to chant. So you can give that much of fixed time, and depends upon how much time it takes for your competitive exams. Okay. So after finishing your chanting, yeah, about 2 hours it takes for chanting. So there are 24 hours. In 24 hours, 6 hours rest. Okay. So what remains is 18, and you keep 1 hour, another 2 hours for your bathing and eating 3 times in a day and washing and whatever other things for 2 hours. So 6 plus 2, 8 hours is gone. So 8 hours for body. Okay. So you divide the 24 hours into 3 sections. Wait, I'll show you something here. Time management. So how many 24 hours we have? So 8 hours for body. Then 8 hours for your work or study. Then remaining 8 hours are there. Okay. So in these 8 hours, you can give about 2 hours for chanting. And if somebody is chanting less number of rounds, accordingly you can keep it less. And maybe 30 minutes of reading and 30 minutes of some hearing, right, in a day. So it takes about 3 hours, and still 5 hours remains. Okay, 5 hours. So if you manage your time properly, and you will have time. I think 8 hours of study should be good enough for your study. And apart from that, you have to do some homework or self-study. Then you can take some time from the remaining 5 hours. So Sacrificing sleep, I don't advise. 6 hours sleep you take, and don't sleep in the daytime. Just don't take rest in the daytime. You can work whole remaining 18 hours. And that's what I also try to do. Sleep 6 hours in the night, sometimes 6.5 hours, and whole day be busy in different activities. You can manage. And for more specific details, if you want, you can contact me personally, or you can write to me, or you can contact your mentor. Okay, so Amish, thank you, Pruji. Amish is commenting. Then there is a question by on the audio. Why in Chaturmas only onion garlic is banned? No, in Chaturmas many items are banned. In the first month we don't eat vegetables, green leafy vegetables, right, like palak. And in the second month we avoid curd. In third month we avoid milk, and in the fourth month we avoid urad dal or masoor dal. So in this way different restrictions are given. So we follow that. Onion garlic is banned throughout the year for Vaishnavas. We don't take it. Proji, do we come back to this material world from Swarga? Swarga is also part of material world. This we'll discuss more in 9th chapter. So there is whole material world. In that there are 14 planetary systems. Swarga is also one of the planetary systems. So we'll go up and come down. So Swarga is also part of the material world. Swarga is not spiritual world. So there's material world, and then there's Vaikuntha, which is spiritual world. So Swarga is part of the material world only. All the devatas are part of material world only. Okay. So Rishikesh Patil is asking, can you kindly tell how we can enter Goloka Vrindavan? As you told, we are not born in Vaikuntha realm. Then how is the process when we are eligible to go there after death? Yes. So how to go to Goloka Vrindavan? So when you develop love for Krishna, then Krishna will take you to Goloka Vrindavan, right? So when you develop love for Krishna, when you don't have any material desires, like in the second chapter ending, we discussed that how if you control your senses and then you completely become free from all the attachments, and then you serve him. Another sloka I'll tell you in 15th chapter. He says 15.6. निर्माण मोहाजित संग दोष अध्यात्म नित्या विनिवृत्त कामा द्वंद्वैर्विमुक्ता सुख दुःख संज्ञे गच्छन्ति मूढ़ा पदम अव्ययम तत्. Gachanti, you will go to Padam Avyayam, the spiritual world, Golok Vrindavan. How? When you become free from moha and mana, you become free from all attachments to this material world. You are fixed in spiritual knowledge that I am the spirit soul, not this body. I am servant of Krishna. And you are done with all lust, vinivritta kama, attachment to the opposite sex, attachment to the desires of this material world. You are free from that. Dvandvar vimukta, you become free from heat, a disturbance of heat, cold, man, apaman. That's called dvandvar vimukta. Then you go back home, back to Godhead. So we have to reach to this stage to be able to go back home, back to Godhead. Yeah. Okay, so any other questions? Shivani is asking, should we not start any new work on Pitru Paksha? I don't know about this, but generally in Pitru Paksha we offer our gratitude and we offer our Pinda Dan to the ancestors for their spiritual benefit. So if they are stuck up somewhere, they'll be able to get liberated. So this is the time when they do this Pitru Paksha from this Purnima to Amavasya. They offer their gratitude to the ancestors. So that work we should do this month, this fortnight. Rishikesh is asking, just like in material world, we are born from mother's womb. How is the process we enter there? So there is no birth. We just leave our body, and the soul goes back to spiritual world. Right? The soul is taken in a Vaikuntha Airlines to the spiritual world. Vaikuntha Airlines will come with Garuda, and we sit on that, and then the Vaikuntha Vishnu Dutas, they take us back to Godhead. So that is the process. We are not born in the spiritual world. We just enter the spiritual world. Yes, your voice is not very clear.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear.
Yeah. So, related to this, in Maharashtra, one sage, Swanta Tukaram, he entered to spiritual world with his body. So it was not the soul taken. So what was the,
Yeah, correct. Good question. So in his case, the whole body was spiritualized, right? He didn't have to change his body. He was completely spiritualized. Just like iron, when you put in fire, it becomes fiery, right? It will become, initially it is black, it will become red, then it will become bluish white, blazing like fire. So similarly, when the soul is completely engaged in service of the Lord, even the body becomes spiritualized. Right? Even great acharyas, their body is spiritual. It may appear like material, but it is spiritualized. It is transcendental body. So that is being in touch with them, we get so much spiritual vibrations because their body is spiritual now. So just like iron put in fire becomes fiery. Similarly, Tukaram Maharaj's body also spiritualized because of his constant bhajan and immersion in Krishna's leelas. Okay. So even Dhruv Maharaj also went in the same body back to Godhead. He didn't have to change his body because his body is fully spiritualized. So that's how we have to understand their pastimes. Okay. So a very important story actually in Dehu it happened, the place where Vaikunta Gamanasthan. I've been there many times. So on the bank of that river, Indrayani river. So that happened. It's very historic. Omkar is telling Hare Krishna Pura as I'm working with one of the big four. Sometimes we get clients related to debt or livestock and making the GST needs to be karma for that. What is one of the big four? Achha, KPMG. Sometimes we get client related to debt or livestock for making the GST needs. I mean, it deals with some animals or what? Livestock. Yeah, sometimes. Yeah. It's like so the work which is indirectly supporting such kind of slaughter. Like for example, if somebody is working in McDonald's, there is the biggest cow killer, McDonald's, in the world. It kills billions of cows. So even making softwares for them, right, will be sinful. We may not be directly involved in that killing of that animals, but if one is like one of the devotees got a job in McDonald's to improve their sales systems. So then he was like, hey, don't do that because that is promoting Gohatya. We'll get sinful reactions and then money is tainted with blood. So we cannot take that. So we can try to choose occupations which are more purer, which can be more less, means actually, which can be free from these four sinful activities: meat eating, illicit sex, intoxication, and gambling. If it is free from that, then it's much better, right? At least directly we should not be involved. And if you come to know that it's even supporting the cause, my work is supporting that cause, and better we can take more noble professions for earning money. And one thing in this is that no, they will give quick money because of their good profits. But it's better to earn little less by good means, by noble means, rather than earning sinful money, a lot of sinful money, right? So we should be careful. Right? Like I know one of the devotees who was working in one company. It was a marketing company, and he was selling. He had to market the products. It was initially milk products. He was happy with that. He was putting like milk and curd and ghee and other things. But later the company introduced egg also. Then they started introducing non-veg items like chicken and other things. Then he went and asked his guru, they are doing this, what I should do? I have to promote his eggs sales also. And I am the promotion in charge, so I have to increase the profits. So it's becoming difficult for me. And I said, okay, better quit this job. So he quit this job and he was wondering what to do now. So then within some time he entered into a partnership with one of his friends who was promoting milk, organic milk. So they both of them teamed together and they started promoting organic milk in Bangalore. So in certain areas. So in that way, so one can choose to some good professions, noble professions, which can avoid sinful activities. So then it can be karma yoga. And if it is connected to Krishna, that becomes karma yoga. Okay. Yes. Thank you so much. Anybody has any other questions? So very nice. So all more than 25 who are still there listening to this question answers. It shows your great interest in this topic. So I'm very grateful to all of you for being part of this event, Systematic Gita course. So we'll meet again next week with the 5th chapter, but I'll be sharing with you the 4th chapter assignments and shlokas. I'm just showing you the shloka sheet here. So this our devotees have made. So you can try to memorize one of the shlokas from this. A very beautiful made PPT. You can use this to memorize one shloka from the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Okay. So thank you everybody for coming for today's session. We'll meet again next week. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.